Hello and welcome to episode 53. That was such a weird opening, but we're going to go with it anyway. Hello and welcome to episode 53 of The Unusual Suspects. My name's Rob Gargiulo. I know I don't look like Vinny, and I apologize that he's not here, but he will be back next week. But today we have a great show for you in store. A bunch of our unusual unusuals are here. We'll go around the room and introduce everybody. To my left, we have the director of distribution. What do they call you? Supreme
My Supreme Leader.
Yes, he has trained her well, and we'll get to Amy first in a minute. But first, Humberto, the Supreme Leader of Distribution at Valuetainment. We also have Brandon Aceto. He is the lead researcher. We also have one half of the writing duo Shawner at VT.com, Shane. And then we have... I guess what would you be? The subordinate?
I am your minion.
Okay, the minion
I
of...
got in trouble last time. It's on record now.
I don't think it's a
You
racist
got in trouble
term.
last time for what?
Calling me minion.
Oh, you called her a minion.
They thought it
but
was a derogatory term. I embrace it.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, she wanted to be brainwashed, and Humberto took advantage of that.
He's
So
washing
no
my
bad
brain
idea.
with the
So
right
it's okay.
things.
Yeah.
What's that?
And the government does it, so it's okay.
That's right. It's Humberto propaganda. It's
know.
what we have at valuetainment.com. We have a bunch of great stories for you today. I'll be covering the new Cold War. Are we on the precipice of a nuclear attack? Shane will be covering China banning wealth flaunting on social media. Humberto is going to talk about the European election. Brandon is going to be covering how we colonize or recolonize Africa. And Amy will be discussing the theory that Brittney Griner is a man. Yes, and we will get to all of those first. Check out Manect. Right there, you can see my graphic. You can connect with me on Manect for any of your podcasting questions, whether it's SEO, titling, how to book guests, whatever you may need. Also on Manect, we have Humberto. Humberto can or will not make your channel grow, depending on the skill and talent that you have. So connect with Humberto on Manect. There's his QR code. Shane, if you have any writing ideas or any news stories that Shane should be covering for VT.com, you can connect with him right there. Also on Manect, Brandon, what can they connect with you to do?
Oh, they can connect with me about economy questions, how to grow your YouTube channel. I did pretty good with that. And then pretty much anything else you want to know.
You want to know how to make your biceps curl, you connect with Brandon. And, of course, Amy, she is the minion of Humberto. She can basically impart to you Humberto's wisdom through Manect. So scan her QR code and connect with her as well. And, of course, our lovely producer behind the computer, the reason that any of this is able to happen, Kellyanne, make sure you connect with her as well. She'll make your channel grow. She can help you with YouTube, SEO, titling, relationship, everything else as well. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. This week has been a weird one. It started on Monday where the reports were coming out that the Russian nuclear submarine was 66 miles off the coast of Florida. At certain points, they said that it was 50 miles, and then I saw as close as 25 miles to Key Largo. Have you guys been paying attention to what they're calling the new Cold War and Russia participating in war games in Cuba?
Yes.
It never ended. What are we talking about? We're still in the Cold War.
The Cold War never ended.
It never ended.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Shane, have you been paying attention?
Kind of agree with that. Yeah, it seems that they have a nuclear submarine in the water too. And I mean, when we first moved to Florida, my wife and I, she is a northern supremacist. She loves the Northeast. She was like, I never really looked at a map closely, but my God, how close are we to Cuba? 90 miles away? Key West is extremely close to this right now.
Yes, and
this is not, all the way up in Alaska or something.
Well, being in South Florida, every day there's stories in the news about migrants coming ashore from Cuba, and it's crazy. They are a nifty folk, those Cubans, because they'll grab Gatorade bottles and duct tape, make a raft out of it, and then get to America. And so every day there's news stories, 27 migrants washed ashore on Gatorade bottles, and you're like, how is that even possible?
That's how bad communism is.
That they escaped to come
On
here.
Gatorade bottles.
And I mean, I did not realize either. I've been in Florida for 10 years. Florida's a huge state. People don't they're like, oh, it's all just rednecks by the beach. There is an entire central Florida that is hillbilly. So yes, we have rednecks at the beach and then hillbillies in the forest. We have the best of both worlds, but we are so close to Cuba that this became a concern. And I wasn't I was paying attention to it, but I wasn't really concerned until I started getting text messages at, let me see, I'm going to pull them up real quick. It was the middle of the night. It was 11:30 between my brother and my mother, both of which are nuts. And I love them both, but they're both, arguably, both are going to end up in some type of camp eventually when the Chinese invade. They started texting back and forth at 11:58, and Tuesday night, my mom's going, do you see what, and my mom's up, and she's starting this, and she's going, do you see what's going on off the coast of Florida? Russia's invading, and my brother's like, I can't believe my parents are worried about commies. Well, they should be worrying about retirement. And I'm like, I just want a nap. Why are you guys like texting me? It's like, but there's actual people here that are scared that this is going to develop, and the concern, it's rising, escalating tensions with Russia. This all goes back to NATO having encroached on Russia's border with Ukraine. And this is what they're saying is a show of force. Here's footage of some of the fleet of the Russian Navy coming into port at, I believe it's the Port Havana in Cuba. Scary music doesn't help. That's kind of what freaked me out. I saw this, I'm like, oh shit. Now it's not really that scary if you just mute it. The problem is what they're saying is that the Russians have a nuclear sub that has missiles that can reach the United States mainland. They're saying hypersonic missiles. I don't know if anybody has done any digging into this, but they were saying hypersonic missiles that can reach our coast that we do not have a defense against. Does anybody here believe that we don't have a defense against this?
No, I refuse to believe that because I've heard the narrative that China and Russia have these, but we spend $900 billion a year on our defense. Russia spends, I think, $65 billion a year on their military systems. So we spent more of that in just Ukraine alone. So I refuse to believe, like, I'll never pay taxes again if we literally don't have the same technology that they have. We better have 10 times better the technology that we have.
What I've always read is that any technology that we have today, the government had 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So the smartphone that you have now, they had back in what, 1998, 99?
Yeah, and we kept talking about that Secrecy Act where they keep all the stuff secret that ever since the 50s. So they probably have crazy stuff that we have no idea about. And I mean, the scenario in which like people think that they'll invade us, no, that's impossible because they have one submarine. Like, yeah, hitting us with a nuke is a threat, but they won't actually hardcore invade us on land because they'd have to send an entire army across the ocean.
But what I mean, you say that like, okay, they send a nuke and it hits the mainland. That's the end.
Yeah, no.
Right? Because then we retaliate with nukes, and now we're in an arms race that no one wins.
Right.
What did they say? That the Second World War was fought with guns and bombs and nukes, but the Third World War will be fought with sticks and rocks?
Yeah.
No,
whatever.
it's the fourth.
The
So it's
fourth.
like- yeah.
Okay, so the next one will be the nuclear one.
Because this is
and then
what's
the
gonna
one
ruin-
after that. Wonderful. Great.
There weren't any
Can't wait.
weapons left. That's why we use
that's a
sticks and
good
rocks.
thing.
What, that nuclear
Yeah.
apocalypse happened?
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we've done too much.
Okay, you guys pardon my ignorance. So this is coming from a submarine, correct? This is the main concern. So how do you shoot a nuke? Like they shoot it through the water?
Yeah, it goes
to
up
the
through
shore?
water.
It goes up and then
So
to
they
the shore?
don't surface to shoot
Wow.
it. I thought they would surface to shoot it, but I guess they can shoot it from the water, goes up into the sky, and hits the mainland.
I believe
Really?
I believe that's the case. Yeah.
And that's because they don't want, if it was on a ship above the surface, they'd be able to hit the ship. The submarine means they can go really close to shore undetected and fire off.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
We're supposed to be able to detect these though.
Now, you would think that, I mean,
Yeah,
well,
we should be
okay,
able
with the
to.
history of the United States and Cuba, and at that point, the Soviet Union in the 60s, with the original Cold War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, you would think that there would be cause for concern. We're in a new Cuban Missile Crisis. However, if you take a look, Joe Biden, instead of addressing the nation, here he is. He went to a Juneteenth celebration where
great.
he froze while dancing. Please roll the tape, Andres.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, Kelly. I'm sorry, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Much better looking than Andres. Finally. Yes, that's the leader of the free world. So if you were worried and you're like, oh no, the world's going to end,
Well,
that's what he looks like. He does. He looks like a
The
statue,
wax,
Kelly.
the wax thing.
that's how I look like
moved,
with
he
my
moved.
family. I can't dance either.
Yeah,
know?
but you don't have Alzheimer's.
Well-
Or I'm sorry, some type of cognitive dysfunction. But look at him. He looks lost. Like this is sad because when we put my Nana in a home. It got to the point where, and my parents hated to do it, but she started to wander off. She was going senile. The best course of action for her at that time was to put her in a home. We would go visit her in the home, and this is what we would see. People just staring off into the distance. Like there was something going on, but they weren't really tuned into what was going on.
Look at the
That's
second
what you
man.
see every single day with our president.
Did you guys catch the fist bump? He was like moving
Yeah.
his hand down, and then the black guy
I
like
saw
went to,
that.
thought he was going to fist bump him. So
He's trying to
they
make him look good. Like,
intercepted.
yeah, we're totally
Yeah.
both awake, right, Joe?
Now, when you see like strong leaders, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a shirtless photo of Vladimir Putin on a horse in a river, but those
Right.
photos do exist. Take
Fighting
a look at our
bears.
president trying to get through a sentence, and this is again at the Juneteenth event this week.
She knew so long as she was denied, our freedom can never be secured.
Yep. So if you're not worried about our national security, I mean, we literally have a guy that take a look right here. This was at the D-Day Normandy celebration a few weeks ago, where he may or may not have had to shit his pants.
Oh.
Now, look, I've had kids.
Oh.
I know when kids are
Oh.
potty training and when they're pooping. That is the same exact movement my 4-year-old
lean.
does. Or when he was potty training, he'd do the same thing. And that's not the first time. Kelly, if you could play the next clip we have right here, this is him just walking where he stops. And my favorite is, I think this is the one with the animation. Can you play this one, Kelly? Oh, it's not. Okay, there's one where someone animated turds falling out of him as he stood there. But that is the leader of the free world right there, freezing multiple times in front of your very own eyes. There's multiple reports of his cognitive decline, people continuing to question his sanity. And this is the person that right now we're in a show of force with Russia, where they, yes, whether or not you want to agree with what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, and that war, what's going on right now in the Atlantic Ocean, in Cuba, and I had to do research. There have been war game military exercises done before. Russia has done them every year from 2013 to 2020. So they did them during President Trump's presidency. The difference between then and now is that we were not funding a proxy war in Ukraine, someone Russia was fighting. We are now, and now they're resuming war games off our coast, and no one seems to. The biggest argument that I saw this week was Caitlin Clark not making it to the Olympic team, and no one's talking about the threat of Russia being off our coast. I didn't see Ron DeSantis say anything. I didn't see Joe Biden say anything. Everybody's mute while this is going on.
Wow.
It's insane. And I mean, I wonder how far they're willing to push it. Like the military-industrial complex, how far are they willing to push it? Because we know that they hopped right into the situation after getting out of Afghanistan, which is crazy because they, their money pipeline got shut off with that. But like, really, how far are they willing to push it to the edge before something like this happens? You can't control the situation anymore.
Humberto?
Oh, Jesus, I'm coming hot. This is like the tip of the iceberg of all the stupid decisions that led to this. First of all, are we 8 minutes in? I don't know if we're 8 minutes in.
We're pretty far.
All right.
Go off, King.
Fuck Francis Fukuyama and his fucking bullshit about the end of history.
Go
it
off.
never fucking ended. It never fucking ended. And I was born when the Berlin Wall fell. Like I was born, a day after.
I think the anniversary was this week of like the 33rd anniversary of
All
the
right.
Berlin Wall fall.
Like and stupid ass fucking liberal thinkers like this Fukuyama guy thought that when the wall fell, it was opening the world to the people on the other side. What that wall was doing, it was protecting us from communism. We let our guard down, okay? And NATO is the most stupid organization in the freaking planet. You know what their statement is, like why they were formed, okay? Like literally from their website. They were formed for us to safeguard allies of freedom, security by political and military needs. So they were formed to fight communism, okay? And now they're bringing communism to our coast. I'm not a pacifist, probably the opposite, but the thing is, like,
More fascist.
Jingle
than
it.
pacifist.
but spend all the freaking missiles, but aim them the right way and make them meaningful. Because the thing is, the last meaningful war was, I think it was a Korea War, maybe that meant something ish. You know,
Probably.
What do you think about Vietnam?
Bullshit.
Just what do you think about it?
I'm split. Because they went there for the right reason, but then it got degraded.
What
to
about
like a
Afghanistan in 2020 or 2001?
Nah.
Complete nonsense.
See, I don't agree
That
with
was a heroin
Iraq,
war.
but Afghanistan,
Well,
I
the
thought there
thing
were
is,
at least noble intentions. We
there
were
was no
going after the
reason-
Taliban.
Well,
Grabbing
there's
heroin.
no reason for 9/11 to have happened. We shouldn't have been involved in the Middle East, and if 9/11 was actually done by Al Qaeda, which is also questionable, it's like we shouldn't have pissed them off to begin with by being involved with Israel and Saudi Arabia.
So no war. What about, okay,
You know how much that war cost, Rob? $12 trillion.
What's that?
It cost us $12 trillion to be in the Middle East over the last 20 years.
But that's that military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
Because spending that $12 trillion, how much did they make?
Yeah, like that amount, if not more, and that adds to our debt. Like 12 out of 34, that's from that war.
The thing is that everything adds up at the end. We're watching the interview with Congressman Massey that has a little pin here that has
debt clock.
The debt clock.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes, in
right.
real time, where it updates in real time, a digital clock that updates the actual national debt.
Out of those 32 billion, we spent 12 in wars that have done.
Yeah, what did we get
nothing
from
for us.
that?
What did we get from that? Like, I don't understand.
One tangible result.
So 1/3 of what the national debt has been spent on foreign wars that we have not.
No, just the Middle East and that Bush through like the Obama period.
Oh, so that's not including any foreign aid given to
Yes.
Russia.
No.
I'm sorry, Ukraine or
Israel.
Yeah.
And the point is here that I think maybe, I don't know, like, I don't want anything bad to happen, but I think we have lost the reason why we do things. Like, we lost the reason for NATO to exist, that is to fight communism. We lost our ways in freedom. We have the same guys. Imagine if one of the protests for Palestine took place in 2002. Imagine if one of those protests took place in 2005.
Yeah.
It would have been.
Every soccer mom in the country would have been up in arms.
Yeah.
Everyone would have been arrested immediately. The first guy that goes out with his face covered and a green thing on his head, he would have been in Guantanamo in 10 minutes. So what are we defending anymore? I don't understand. We're not defending the free market. We're not defending our way of life. We're not defending our borders. We're not defending our taxes. We spend carelessly. Most of the immigrants that come to this country, the majority, are Latino immigrants that are escaping communism, okay? And we have Cuba that this maybe it's not known in, like in the English-speaking world, but they're the epicenter of all the training that is done to overthrow governments in South America.
They're like the Iran of South America.
And they train the guys in guerrilla fighting styles. They took over Colombia. They do terrorist attack in Chile. They do terrorist attack in Peru, and they train them all in Cuba. And then all the resources from Venezuela that they run dry. One of the richest countries. Probably, like, if they manage to things well, it'd be as rich as Saudi Arabia. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
It will be even better. All those resources go to the funding of Cuba, and now that they have a strong foot on Mexico, all of their money is going to go back to Cuba. So people, and it's so disgusting, especially fucking Canadians, fuck those guys, that they can go travel and have their holidays and vacations and take stupid pictures with the.
So gay.
It is stupid. It is stupid.
Seriously,
It
think
is
about
stupid.
this: Canadians going on vacation to Cuba. It's just the worst thing ever.
Well, Trudeau is supposedly Castro's bastard child.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly.
Humberto, can I play this clip? I want to maybe offer this as an answer as to why.
How do you
things
do
become
that?
Like this, magic.
All right.
All right, but let's.
Well, who is this?
Democracy basically
Wise man.
means
Oh, I love this.
He's got Joe Biden.
He's
sitting there.
Biden.
Froze.
government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
I saw that a couple weeks back. It's
But
so
this is
good.
why things are the way they are. Because, like you were saying, the last war, the Korean War, that's the last war that we can agree on maybe had a good reason behind it.
Without like putting aside, I commend people that serve their country.
Right, of
I
course.
honor the sacrifice that they did.
It's not
Wrong
their
or right
fault that their
reasons,
leaders
Every one of
let
them
them
is
down.
is a hero.
Yeah. But when you have people voting for the laws in the country, for the leaders of the country, and you end up with Biden, and all the democratic institutions in our country propped him up as the thing that will prevent Trump from becoming president. And, it's just never Trump. What were their mottos? Like, back to normalcy, return to decency. We have to stop Trump at any cost. The lack of education in the average voter translated into mass voting for an empire's direction leads to things like this, where you have like the distracted majority voting in ever more incompetent people that are propped up because of their corruption, while countries that are maybe not as rich, maybe not as well connected, like Russia, but they don't have this problem of this vast majority of like media engineered people voting in the against the favors of that country. They're able to be right on our shore, and we just let it happen. Like you said, people aren't even reporting that this is happening.
No, and then when you do, people are like, you're blowing it out of proportion. But
So-
it's a foreign enemy that we are currently funding a proxy war against.
Yeah.
And how long have they been there? Because I saw you last week. You talked about how Putin said he was willing to go into peace talks and this,
Yeah.
that, and the third. And then immediately after, Joe Biden said that he would be willing to send U.S. missiles to Ukraine to deploy against Russia.
Yeah.
So do these coincide at all? Like, what's the timeline of how long this ship, the submarine, has been there? And
So I saw Monday was the earliest reporting, but there were reports of like Thursday or Friday of last week that the ship was on its way. But then what did we do? Okay, so my question to you guys, are we concerned? Are we concerned with Russia being this close to the shores? And we're living in the state of Florida.
Yes.
Are any of you guys currently concerned about your safety or the well-being of your families? Shane.
Not really, because at the same time as I say all that, it's like, even though the Democratic mob, and by the way, like when I say all that, I don't believe that the American Constitution is wrong, but we're not founded as a democracy. We were founded as a republic with constitutional checks and balances to prevent mob rule. But the civil rights movement and the social liberals of FDR made sure that all of that was basically it's on paper, but it's not real in practice. We basically have in practice mob rule through institutions and nonprofits. I don't, though, at the same time, have any doubt that our deep state and our military is actually capable. Like, I think they're very capable of fending off the attack. And I think that, like, at the same time as we're so incompetent, somehow we're also competent at the same time. And that's because so much money is on the line of the New York Stock Exchange and America's policing of the world that they won't actually allow this to happen. They won't, like, if Biden was actually letting this happen, they would immediately give like all war powers to Blinken and completely take, like, Wall Street would just like take over the government and just be like, no, we're gonna crush Russia. We're not gonna allow this to actually happen.
Humberto?
I am hopeful.
You're hopeful
I'm
that
hope-
it breaks out in a nuclear war.
Not nuclear war, maybe a little bit less than nuclear war. Because the thing is, Rob, let's say, okay?
Okay.
I-
I've never heard anybody have. Okay, not full
You don't think we
scale
should be conflict
apocalypse.
avoidant at all?
Because I think they
No?
do have the measures in place. But let's say I have you over my house. You know, I have a $10,000 coffee machine in my house. I get my beans from freaking, Congo. I hand grind them with a Japanese sharpened freaking thing, and I make the best coffee on the planet. Okay, but I make it the day before you come to my house, so I serve you the coffee cold. That coffee, the only way to fix that coffee is to heat it up. The only way to end the Cold War is for it to get hot. And one of the reasons we're dragging 50 years of problems and losing direction and spending on taxes and creating weird wars and overspending. The only reason, the only way that we can close the Cold War chapter is for the war to get hot. That's the only way. Like, and as soon, as long as it doesn't get hot, we're going to be in a Cold War forever. And I still think we're in a Cold War. We're going to be in a Cold War forever.
Brandon?
So I kind of disagree with that. I think the way to end the Cold War is to bring new competition to the military-industrial complex, because when it ended under Reagan, when the Soviet Union collapsed in '91, there's a huge budget cuts for the military. That scared the shit out of the military-industrial complex, because I think a lot of them lost the contracts, consolidated down from like 200 military contractors to 5, and then they freaked out because they knew that there wasn't a war to really get into, so they started pumping money into NATO, encroaching on Russia. There's a map where you can see every couple of years they go further and further, closer to Russia, putting NATO forces into each country that's closer to Russia, and they knowing full well that was going to antagonize Russia. But that's like the setup that we have now. They were like building this thing out trying to antagonize Russia to create another conflict. So it was the military-industrial complex that stopped the Cold War from actually ending. But with that said, I'm not scared about the submarine off the shore because if the media's talking about it and our military has known about it for months. I mean, I heard about this at one point, like 6 months or something ago, that like the submarine was untraceable and had nuclear weapons on it and stuff. I think if the media knows about, the military is very well informed of what's going on. At the most, Russia would use as like a leverage thing to say like, hey, don't do anything too crazy, because they don't want to make the first drastic strike like that. That's like their last resort, I think.
Final thoughts, Amy.
True. Yeah, I just think it's really interesting the way all the timing coincides, like I mentioned before. Like, I would be concerned if this ship just showed up right after Joe Biden made that claim, that he was going to, equip Ukraine with the missiles to be able to attack Russia.
Yeah.
Then I would be concerned because it's like, okay, they're sitting there to just flex and be like, okay, try it. Like, what are you actually going to do? But if what you're saying is true, if they showed up maybe like months before, if it's been in circulation in the news, maybe it's just coincidental. Definitely not on the same mindset of Humberto. I think we should remain as conflict avoidant as possible up until the election, because once Trump gets in, I think a lot of this will be corrected.
Man, what'd be messed up is if we're like, all right, fine, nothing burger, and then tomorrow, Saturday morning, we wake up and there's a nuclear explosion off the coast
we
of the
wouldn't
Keys.
wake up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We'd be done.
We wouldn't know.
Well, let's move on to another country that, I guess is our enemy kind of right now, right? Because of what's going on with Taiwan.
Yes.
China. China has banned wealth flaunting from social media. Shane, tell us more.
Wow.
That's right. Well, I was going to say to Humberto's point about the Cold War, we could have ended the Cold War, or we could have prevented it from beginning. We could have ended communism, killed it in the cradle, when General George Patton, who was one of the late great heroes of our country,
Was killed. Sorry.
he wanted, after World War II ended, they defeated the Nazis. He wanted to keep going into Soviet Russia and then destroy Russia.
Yep.
And then mysteriously, he died in a car accident in an army truck, and another army truck hit him. And they believe that Eisenhower orchestrated it.
I've gone down some rabbit holes. That is not one I've gone down.
Because Patton was basically just too based for this world. But
Eisenhower wasn't half the man that Patton was.
Who wasn't?
Eisenhower wasn't half the man that Patton
Exactly.
was.
He should have been the president. But so instead of that future playing out, instead we have this one where China is the major communist power in the world, and they've decided that they want to ban wealth flaunting on social media.
Now, if I wanted to read more about this, where could I go?
Well, there's a great article on it on VT.com. China launches crackdown of wealth flaunting social media posts. They write. The Communist Party of China has begun banning users for wealth flaunting behavior on social media as part of a wider effort to clamp down on ostentatious displays of wealth. Wang Hongquan-Sing, I have no idea how to say that.
Sounds like a porn star. Wang Hong.
Yeah. Who has been termed China's Kim Kardashian, so you're right in more ways than one.
Right on the
I wasn't
money.
far off.
The thing is, though, about China's Kim Kardashian is, if we could show these pictures of him, he's a dude, first
it's a
of all.
guy?
Wow.
It's a dude. And
Hey, isn't that guy in the BTS that we talked about on Wednesday?
Yeah, so this is like China's version, except they don't have any talent. They just
sorry, that's Korea. Okay,
they
sorry.
just
go ahead.
feel yes. Not all of them are the same, Rob.
I guess I was saying that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so this is actually a great example of the tale of two cities, where you have an actual communist country, China, where you can rise to the top by having probably no talents like this guy. His family's probably red aristocracy, they call it, which is when you're in the one-party state government for so long that your family collects so many paychecks off the backs of working Chinese people, and you become very wealthy. Or his dad is the owner of some big corporation in China, and every corporation in China is integrated with the government. So, in effect, it's the exact same thing, red aristocracy. So the oligarchy of China, their children want to flex like the Westerners do on social media. Mm-hmm. He says that he never leaves the house with less than 10 million yuan, which is 1.38 million US dollars
Why
on
would
his
you
body.
ever need that?
$1.5 million on his body.
What do you mean? Like in cash? You're on a car? Like
No, like clothing and accessories. So jewelry,
okay.
bags.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
And
Wow.
so what were you going to say, Rob?
Well, I would never flaunt that. If you remember, there was a crime syndicate in Hollywood that was breaking into celebrities' homes and stealing millions of dollars worth of jewelry and other artifacts and antiques from these homes because the celebrities show it on social media. It's the same reason why they tell you if you're going to go on vacation, don't post that shit on Facebook because then people know your home is unattended and they can break into it.
And when you go to certain places on vacation as well, like if you have Rolexes, if you have nice stuff, don't wear it. Like I know people like even in places like Spain, places in Europe where you will all of a sudden be circled and that
there's
shit gets-
stories all the time. Miami, you see it big time where these people will go out to a club, they'll have a drink with a girl. The girl either will slip the Rolex off their watch
one of
at the
those.
club or they go back to the guy's apartment, they drug the guy, and then they steal the guy's Rolexes. Now, I have no experience in this because I don't have a Rolex, but it sounds fun. As far as the guy part, like, hey, go have some drinks with a fine lady, and then you get a nice snooze. Problem is you wake up, and then your Rolex collection is gone.
Right.
They would steal, what, my fucking iPhone? Yeah, okay. Great, can't get that back.
Well, it's not your kidney.
I mean,
They're Jesus.
that's true. So yeah, there's also a drill rapper in New York Pop Smoke, who was murdered because of bragging about how much jewelry he had on Instagram Live. They came to his house and killed him.
Government?
No, it's just other rappers or gang people, whatever.
Oh, you're talking
So
about
this guy
America.
walks around
Yeah, in
with,
America.
Okay.
This guy walks around with $1.13 million worth of jewelry and clothes.
At least
But in Chinese money.
in Chinese money. But no, that's 1.38 million US dollars.
Okay.
10 million
Yeah.
Chinese money.
Oh, wow.
And so he shows off his 7 properties in Beijing, showing off his sports cars, his full staff of maids. But all of his clips disappeared when his Douyin account, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, because they have a different version of TikTok where they don't get to see our version. They get to see people doing math and like painting and, productive activities.
Right.
His account was locked and rendered unavailable to his more than 4 million followers. It says his page was suspended due to violations of Douyin's community guidelines. He was banned from Weibo and some other thing I can't say, 2 popular Chinese social media apps. Other social media users, such as Bo Gongzi, who goes by Young Wealthy Lord Bai, with 3 million followers, was banned, and so was Abalone's sister, with 2.3 million. The former would post videos of him carrying his dog around in his handbags, and the latter posted a video touring her mansion in the city of Macau. So basically, this is all because the Chinese Cyberspace Administration, which regulates the country's internet, launched a crackdown on influencers who create a wealth-flaunting persona, deliberately showcasing a luxurious lifestyle built on money in order to attract followers and traffic. They go on to say, once materialism starts spreading, it can have a bad influence on teenagers. Hence, this trend of luxury on the internet needs to be stopped. It continues to say that
it's weird, but the more that I hear about how the Chinese regulate some of their social media, the more I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like a communist.
So that's what I was going to ask you
for it.
guys.
So, but is it
What do
only
you think about this?
Is it only with regards to social media though? That's all they can do. They can't deduct a point from your social credit score or anything along those lines.
It doesn't
at least at this point.
It doesn't seem to have anything to do with social credit yet, but it is about their whole social system where they want to police virtue,
Got
and
you.
especially because they're in an economic downturn, which I want to turn to Brandon about. They don't want people feeling jealous and creating this national disunity. And also this feeling of, well, I can't get ahead, and this guy's so rich, so why should I try?
So is it the government
cetera.
policing it or the platform, the social media platform?
It's the government.
Come from the
Okay.
government.
The government's
Interesting.
telling them what to do.
So we were talking a little bit before this. So I used to be involved before getting into media. I was in the world of fintech. I actually helped some multi-level marketing, network marketing companies with some of their marketing campaigns and strategies. And it's funny, for the majority of network marketing or MLM companies, it's actually against their guidelines for you to post any type of wealth flaunting. So for example, if you're a multi-million-dollar earner, top 0.1% of your company, and you post a picture like in front of your Lambo or something like that, that is grounds to be suspended from the company because they don't want you creating any type of unrealistic expectations, right? Because the fact of the matter is there's only a small percentage of people who are going to actually achieve that income, so they consider it to be disingenuous marketing,
Yeah.
It's funny how in the US you can see this type of thing play out in a specific industry, but China's saying, no, this is our whole country. This is how it's going to go down from here
Across
on
the
out.
board.
I tell you what, at least this is honest. At least there's a little bit of honesty on them doing this. Like, I mean, in this new world order where everything is the same, every place is the same, we have this veneer of democracy. I don't see much difference between China and Switzerland and here in America. You have the super rich doing whatever they want. You know, you have a strip mall after strip mall, and you see how people that need to pay 10 times their salary for rent, they start piling up. And at least they're putting a stop to it. But this is exactly the same as it happens everywhere, you know? And why are they stopping this? Because the founding argument was class conflict, and this actually creates class conflict when you put the boot on top of people, like all the population that is enslaved in China right now, and this guy is walking around with $1.2 million. And it also talks about the values, like anything that he wears will look cheap. Okay, like what's it? $1.2 million.
1.38.
1.38. Like a very rare vintage watch will cost more than that. Okay, so like $1.3 million is probably like a very expensive AP watch or a very expensive, a very expensive watch, a few $1,000s in clothes, and that's what it is. So the guy walks around with a nice watch and a few properties. But it doesn't mean anything and it doesn't change anything. But they know where they're heading, you know, because class envy will start spiking up, and the corruption, the level of corruption everywhere, it's just so deep. And this is like like the paint. You know, this is the facade that we have, a Nancy Pelosi who's a billionaire making insider trade. And
I was just gonna say, a lot of what I was saying about the red aristocracy, doesn't that sound very familiar to our own situation, where we have these children of the government? I mean, just on the video, there was Douglas Emhoff, our second man, Kamala Harris's husband. His daughter is like flaunting all sorts of social capital on Instagram. I don't know if you know her, but she's this like hipster, lives this like carefree life. There's a million examples of children of the elite in America acting just like that kid.
Well, both China and America are simmering right now when it comes to the youth. So I mean, for China, it's like a 25% youth unemployment rate because there's no jobs left for the things that they're going to school for. Like they were misled with the things that they were told were going to be productive. And then, you have things going out of business because nobody's spending money because they don't have enough people in their younger generation to spend enough money to sustain the businesses that are already established. So like they have protests breaking out already because of this, because of all this like youth frustration. The vast majority of kids have to live with their parents because, there's a 9 to, there's only like 9 women for every man in China because of the one-child population thing. So the vast majority of young men in China are living with their parents, can't find a wife, and the average priced house in China costs, I think, 46 years of an average salary it takes to buy an average priced home in China.
Wow.
While it's common knowledge that there's enough empty housing units to house the entire population a second time, but that's just sitting there to prop up their real estate bubble because that's the vast majority of their economy. These houses and buildings that just get built for no reason.
Sounds like a powder keg.
Yeah, big time.
What?
A powder keg.
Powder keg.
It's like a barrel of TNT that's about to explode. All you need is a match.
Oh, gotcha.
So why
it's
don't they
like-
use that? Please pardon my ignorance. I'm not very well versed in Chinese housing. Why don't they house the people in those homes then if they continue to build them and they sit empty?
Because they're owned as second homes for people who already own homes because it's the only reliable investment in China that they feel comfortable investing in. Like the vast majority of them don't trust the stock market. They're not allowed to invest in crypto. So they literally just buy a second home, and it's more profitable for them to just let it sit there than rent it out because they're culturally the value falls off a cliff if they let somebody live in it. So they just let the price go up because they're like
does it appreciate though? Like to a decent degree?
Well, the last 20 years, their experience is that it just infinitely appreciates because they've been it's building this debt bubble, but that's not permanent.
And
Right.
plus, you wouldn't want to live in one of those houses. You guys on the internet know they're called tofu buildings, that they're more for investing purposes. So, like, if you walk into one of these apartment buildings that are made to flaunt to the west, you can touch a wall and it will just crumble. The toilets don't work, fake mirrors, fake windows. So they're just there because it's the only thing they can own, and it's the only way to put wealth away. So it's disgusting. Everything is disgusting. Jesus Christ, I'm dark today.
So before we wrap up, so
What do you think about this, Rob?
well, my question to you guys was, do you want to see some type of? I'm not for the banning of social media. I think that I am for the banning of TikTok under the guise of that it was a national security concern. That being said, I think that it should sell to another company that can operate within the United States. I think Americans should be allowed to utilize the app. I'm not in favor of any type of social media censorship. So to ban people from flaunting their wealth, I don't care to watch it. I don't look at it. I don't subscribe, but that's my choice. Do you guys see any type of, would you be in favor of, or do you see this type of censorship coming to the United States? You're shaking your head no, Brandon.
Yeah, no, I think it's a weak move because I think, like, you know, it's not going to be everybody, but I think a lot of people get motivated by that stuff and say, like, hey, like, even though things, like, could look somewhat hopeless, I'm going to do everything in my power to put myself in that position. And, you know, not everybody will get there, but, you know, enough people do to where it's, like, worth it to some people, and you don't have to watch it if it makes you unhappy.
No, but I see that play out in real time with our Vault conference, which, by the way, you can buy tickets at vault2024.conference.com, I think. I don't know the website. Go to vt.com. You can buy them there. But a lot of the stories that I hear are people who started following Pat's content. They were small business operators. They saw how Pat was able to scale his business. He was able to become somebody on social media that could show what hard work has earned, and those people were motivated to that, and now they're spending money to go to a conference that, you know, the average everyday person can't afford to go to.
Yeah.
But these leaders in business can. Why? Because they were motivated by seeing somebody like Patrick Bet-David do it.
Right.
There's a saying that's like, I don't say this to impress you, but to impress upon you. And I think that
I like that.
This
Yeah.
content can sometimes drive people in the wrong direction. But for a country like China, where they don't know any better, where they are subject to absolutely terrible conditions, I think it's doing them more of a disservice to see that content barred, to have it blocked, because how are they ever going to know that they can aspire to something bigger or greater in the same way that the people who attended Vault, they were inspired by Patrick?
Yeah, I think it's a waste when it comes, like, my wife watches Below Deck. And she's like,
Oh, no.
I should have been a deckhand. Look
I
at
know
how
one
much.
of the
And I
girls
go,
on there.
are you fucking nuts? You get seasick. How would you be a deckhand? We can't go on a ferry without you throwing up over the side. So, like, there's people like that waste their time. But the people that actually are utilizing that information, seeing that as motivation, and then going out in the world and applying that, like, go ahead, Bravo. I want Bravo banned in my house, but I certainly don't want wealth flaunting banned from my social feed. All right, we got to move along into Humberto and the European election. According to Humberto, well, I guess the title here says, Europe on the right track. Humberto, is Europe headed in the right direction?
Probably, maybe.
No, that wasn't very confident. Probably, maybe.
He's feeling dark today, okay?
You feel
He's
what?
feeling dark.
You said you're feeling dark today.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, okay, news came out. We can see the headlines that everyone was crying about it. It's like, oh, the rise of the fascists and the right wing, and they literally labeled, when they did the split of like how represented each party was. They were like left, center, and then right, and then extreme right,
right,
super right, populist, super mega right, where they're gonna kill everyone. And then I was like, okay, they're saying this, and whenever they say that, it's probably the opposite. So I had a.
When you're saying they, who's they?
You know
the
who.
European. Okay, no, I don't know. But if I were to guess, I'd probably get canceled.
In this case, it's not they, it's the left they.
Yeah,
okay,
But like, what? I'm sorry. So when you say that, like, Europe, who?
Talking about the media.
I'm
The
talking about
media in Europe.
Right.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
media
And
in
our
Europe.
media, too.
And our media too. Like, if we can go to the titles, I mean, to the articles, you guys can see that they were like very alarmist. There it is. You have the crybabies at Vox. What, I hate those guys. They're the worst.
So stupid.
And they're stupid.
They think they're smart.
All right, so you have why Europe is lurching into the right. Jesus Christ. What the far right victories in the European Union means, and what could say for the U.S. this year. So basically, we have the situation, and as a general rule, they lean a little bit more to the right, but did they lean to the right? That's the question. Are they on the right track? That's the question. Because the thing is, we have a view of how politics works here. Our political spectrum is like if you go to Europe, the most leftist elected politician here doesn't come even close to a leftist politician there. Like, they're willing to do things and they're willing to go places. Most of the movements took place in Europe. Some of the thought leaders took place in Europe. You have a bunch of mentorships with people from the old guard to the new guard. Most of the people that are formed to take positions in the leftist movements, they're formed there in Europe. But to sum it up, it was a wild ride, and we had a bunch of parties that actually got some representation. The two main ones that we can see the split, in the next slide, is the ECR. These guys weren't represented, and they got these are the two parties they're complaining about. So is the ECR actually really far right? Not really. If you put them here, they'd be like middle, maybe center right-ish. And the Identity and Democracy Party, that also would be like center right at best. They probably be in the same political space as any rhino in the Republican Party, that they're barely right. They still go to lunch, they still go to dinners, they still overspend, and they still start wars. But the difference with these guys, that the situation in Europe has gotten so much worse in a very fast manner. You have a bunch of immigrants coming in. They're committing violent crimes. They have different laws, so they start their own communities. There's a lot of places in the major capital cities of Europe that are run by Muslim law. So why these people label far right? Because they want Europe for Europeans. And it's a funny thing, because I don't know if you guys saw the memes after this happened, and the memes were super obvious. The most obvious things, like America for Americans, Germany for Germans, Japan for Japanese people, Senegal for Senegalese people. And the thing is that especially with the decolonization movement, we're seeing that Indo-European people are not welcome anywhere. I think, and it's by design. Like, most Western countries were established, but Indo-European people, that's a fact. Like, you just need to look at paintings of the founding fathers. And they created a system of wealth, of culture. And when people come in here and they don't adapt to the rules and the norms of the country, and the funny thing is, most of them are fleeing. They're either fleeing religious oppression, they're fleeing communism, they're fleeing a bunch of things, and they come here for the same reasons that we like this place.
Hey, quick question. So
Yeah.
why is there a bad connotation around the word populism and being a populist? Like, I always thought of that as being a good thing. I haven't, like, that's the term of just like the consensus of the people, right? Or am I wrong?
They view them as not the experts. So it's just public rage. It's just, mere opinion. It's not the wisdom of the social scientists. But the thing is that
What's populism?
there's no populism. It's a term. It basically means what I was just saying. Like, it means popular support for a loud demagogic president. So someone who's just like playing into public fears and public concerns, but not a lot of analysis going on.
According
for,
to
like, the core
Wikipedia,
issues.
populism is a range of political stances that emphasizes the idea of the people and often juxtaposes this group with the elite. It is frequently associated with anti-establishment and anti-political.
Yeah, I'm a populist.
But
I mean,
so-
it sounds like democracy, but just not for the person they want you to like.
But
Yeah.
like think of it like this: like when so like populism is usually associated with the right because their populist reaction is to the elite. The elite now is the left.
Right.
Yeah.
When the left was not in power, they were seen not as populists but as Democrats in the old sense of the term, like pro-democracy, and their elite was the bourgeoisie. No, I'm talking like
when Bush
pre-50s.
was.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like I'm saying, the left took over after World War II, and
Yep.
they seized the institutions in the 60s. That was the sexual revolution, the civil rights revolutions, the socialist revolutions in
The
France.
anti-war movement.
So the anti-war movement, the hippies got in control of all the schools, and then they taught a whole legion of kids, and now you have modern America and modern Europe.
I wasn't really prepared for this, but it's a really good point, Brandon. All these words, they have an intrinsic meaning. and they have an extrinsic meaning. You know, they have a connotation, and they have a definition. All right. If you go to Wikipedia, like Rob did, you will find the definition of the word.
Yeah.
And then the connotation of the word is different, and what it means to the inside group, like the intrinsic meaning of the word, is one thing, and what it means to the outside group, it means a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you brought that up because people, since Trump took office, okay, the main talking point is so divisive. It's divisive. It's dividing. It's so
Polarizing.
It's polarizing and it's dividing. And in order to and that word divisive or polarizing, they have a perspective, okay? And even people that are in the center, maybe center right, they're against dividing and they're against polarizing. And what that really means is that these people that don't know anything, they're veering away from the greater good.
Yeah.
Like, we know what's
Which
good
is
for
what
them.
we say.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
So this is the greatest good. You will eat your bugs. You will do your thing. You will do that.
Pay your carbon taxes.
And what they're saying is that a large amount of the population is veering away from their objective.
Right.
And that then the populism thing comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to have an illegal with tents in your garden, because you know they might do something bad to your daughter, or they might steal something, or
Just weird and not convenient, you know, plain and
yeah,
simple.
So
That means you're a populist.
So-
Yes.
That means
I am a
basically
proud populist,
a-
and I'm
a
proud to
stu-
say it.
When they say it, it means a stupid right winger who's just having a knee jerk reaction
Of
to
course.
real problems in our world today, and these are climate refugees. And instead of being against immigration, what we need to do is we need to create fourplexes in everyone's backyards that are subsidized by the government, and like have mass public housing in the middle of every single suburban town.
Give
and
them 10,000 a
That sounds
month.
nice.
Give them even
give
more
10,000
incentive
a month because we have to
bring
adapt to our changing world. But the thing is that we don't need to adapt to it. They need to adapt to us because they are coming from failed civilizations. Like you said, climate change, wars, religion, it's failed civilizations.
It
That's
is
the
failed
umbrella term. So why would we want to learn from them, or why would we want to make our ideas equal to theirs? Our ideas are clearly the successful ideas. They want to come here. So
Right.
you don't have this cultural relativism. You should be in favor of our culture being the dominant one, but then you get called populists by these idiots who've been trained by left-wing professors of the last 50 years or so.
and
Yeah, it just feels like such an unaware way they're trying to insult us, though, because I can't think of a single negative thing about that. And I think anybody who looks at the word and tries to analyze or someone understands what it means would feel the same way.
Well, the same like nationalists too.
it's a matter
Right.
because Brandon,
Very,
it's a matter of perspective. Okay, it's a matter of perspective, and they play the two sides of the aisle because. And it makes me mad, and this links back to the useless wars that we've been having, because they call themselves Democrats,
Yeah.
and democracy is an excuse to kill the whole country. It's an excuse to put people in jail. It's an excuse for everything. So what is democracy? It's people having the popular vote and electing the people that lead their country, nation, or state.
Literally sounds
So-
like the same thing as populism, but just
Yes.
not in their
so,
favor.
So when they're talking about democracy, like the extrinsic meaning, we all think that we know what democracy is. It's that you go vote and you elect a guy to do your thing. But when they talk about democracy, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
And when they talk about populism, that all democracies should be populist.
Yeah.
They're talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, we're not divided. Some people realize that they have different opinions.
Dude, exactly. And like when you go around and talk to anybody, you realize you agree on the vast majority of things with 80% of people that you talk to, and then that's what populism is. There's not a lot of crazy people when you go around just speaking to people on the street.
By the way,
Unless you
Humberto,
live in California.
Yeah, even that though, Trump got a pretty warm welcome when he went to California this past week.
That's true.
that's
yeah.
the normal
I mean,
person, the average person, but yeah, not in Skid Row. But
Yeah,
but the thing is that these so-called far right groups in Europe, like the AfD that was just created in 2014, they are not actually right wing in any stretch of the imagination by historical standards, as Humberto was saying, because all they're saying is we don't want people to build public housing in my backyard.
Yeah.
What would be truly far right in my mind is monarchy, restoration of monarchy and restoration of priest classes and like full on like no, like the average person has no rights.
Yeah.
So that's how right and left, the right and left terms were created, referring to the French Parliament after the Revolution. So the left side of it was pro-revolution. They were in favor of overthrowing the kings and instituting common rights for all people. And the right side of it was in favor of restoring the monarchy. So to think that these basically like suburban like liberal Democrats who just simply don't want mass immigration constantly in their countries are far right is the most ridiculous thing in the world.
That's a great point.
It is the most ridiculous. It's made up. I think most people know what's best for them. I think that people that come here, like I come here, with good intentions, they should find their place. Like the way I think it, I should be, when I go and live in a neighborhood, I should be the best neighbor you can possibly have. That's my task to integrate. Like I want my neighbors to go like, oh, this guy keeps his yard really, really clean. Oh, this guy helped me out the other day to change a tire. So like I want people that are welcoming here. I want to fall into their customs. I want to integrate with them, and I want to be something better. So they go like, oh, Humberto, I'm glad you're here. You know, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, you're adding to this place.
You're adding to this place. So, well, I was gonna go over a few things, but I think we had an interesting discussion, and it's your turn to talk.
Is it my turn? Okay.
Yeah. Brandon, you're up with... No, it's okay.
I was stuck from
enjoying the conversation. I was learning all about populism and imperialism and all kinds of isms. Autism, I had that. So
We all
I
have
was
a little
having
bit
a
of
hard
that
time
one.
paying attention, but I was tuned in. But you talked about decolonization, and you, Brandon, want to talk about recolonization of Africa.
Our buddy Eric Prince, he brought up a very interesting point that outraged the left, obviously. But you know, I've been thinking about what he says here more and more, and I'll let you see what he says quickly, and then we'll assess after the fact.
Where is this on?
This is on Eric Prince's channel, Off Leash.
Okay.
And they're replaying it on Sam Satter's show because they're all pissed off. But this is just Eric Prince.
Blackwater founder Eric Prince.
Yes.
All this talk of illegal migration in Europe, in the United States, it ultimately comes down to a contest of what is governance. Who is governed? Which countries are governed well? And if so many of these countries around the world are incapable of governing themselves, then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually
hold on a second. Hold on. People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes. Enough. Because if you go to these countries and you see how they suffer under absolutely corrupt, made-up governments that are just criminal syndicates.
Made-up governments.
The people of Africa, the people of Latin America, a lot of them deserve better. Now, some countries are really getting it together. Look at what El Salvador did. Bukele, murder capital of Latin America, he said, no more. Now El Salvador is safer than Prince William County.
And he took
Just
all
south
the...
of Washington, D.C.
So, I mean, I never thought of it that way before he brought it up, but I think he makes a reasonable point that what's in the greater good for the most amount of people, like, is it, like, now you have gangs running a lot of these countries, which is the argument against libertarianism, is that if you really let people do their thing, then, you know, just the most powerful, potentially corrupt group will be the one that's running things. And, you know, that's why we see all this brutal stuff happening in Africa. Same thing with South America. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think there's an argument that these countries were better off when they were colonialized, as weird as that sounds, or do you think they're better off decolonialized, doing their own thing?
Well, you could look at us and go, maybe we were better as a colonial country or with under British rule.
Yeah, I think
so?
about that sometimes.
Because you look at it, you go, man, look how far off this country has fallen.
Yeah.
Would we have been? So I don't know. You can apply that logic to us as well as any other country. Right?
So what's the difference though between say America then and these countries? You know, it's obviously a lot of the time like the resources that we have available, right?
Law
Like
and order.
what's that?
You know, you want to know the difference?
Constitution, law and order.
That's the difference between Australia and the United States.
Yeah, but I mean like America and like Africa, for example, right? But go on.
No, like what I'm saying here is that back to the first topic that we talked, that it makes no sense to have NATO. It makes no sense to go into endless war. $32 trillion makes no sense. The thing that never made sense is that we're exporting democracy, because democracy is something that only you can earn by having a successful society. Like democracy is always earned, and it's internal.
You earn it every single day.
earn
Every day that you enforce the law,
It is.
and that you train people to follow the law, and then themselves push the law on others. Like, what is colonization? Colonization is, first and foremost, the maintenance of another land's laws by another power.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the pillaging of all resources and, you know, slavery and abuse of people. All colonization is, in the textbook definition, is a land far away, is deciding the laws and enforcing the laws in that land. So when Prince is saying that they need to be recolonized, what he's saying is that their governance structures are not stable because they don't have constitutions, and they aren't being, if they do have these constitutions, they're just pieces of paper because they're not being enforced.
Yeah.
And all of American history is about how we've tried to apply our constitution to every single stretch of land that we've come across, where you had the Wild West, which was wild at first, and all those Western movies are about sheriffs going up against the bandits.
Yep.
So you have the outlaws, and you know they're all badass and they're cool and everything, but ultimately the sheriff has to win because he needs to lay down the law to spread civilization. Because civilization, the basic idea of it is that is fairness. It's not equality, it's fairness. Where if you put in more work, you should be rewarded. Someone who steals is cheating the system because they're literally stealing your work, your congealed labor in the form of a possession, and they're taking it for themselves. That goes against the fundamental law of fairness. And so these problems that Eric Prince is talking about is a systematic unfairness happening in corrupt governments, where you have literal syndicates, crime syndicates, stealing, mass stealing. Then there's no economic incentive, and then everything falls apart.
Right. You're not going to go out and take a risk to try and start a business or provide a service if somebody's going to steal from you instantly when you start making money.
And this goes, okay, democracy is the highest form of government. I think every people that have some type of government system, nation state, or like any form of union, I want to be inclusive here, should aspire to have a democracy.
What about constitutional republic?
Yeah.
I'd use a different word.
No, but the thing is, the funding of just to start thinking about having a democracy, you need to have a constitutional republic, because what a republic is a bunch of things that are not democratic. You know, like the Constitution is
representative.
The Constitution is not democratic. They're the basic ground rules to protect you from the powerful, and in my humble opinion, like I'm not, you know, like a foreign expert or whatever, I would have exported, you know, like constitutional republics, because constitutional republics will work under democracy. A constitutional republic, like in Dubai, that is a theocratic state, and it works. It can work with a caste system in India. It can work with a tribal order in Nepal.
Yeah.
There's many ways they can organize who's in power at the moment. You know, it can be sent by God. It can be done by democracy. But if you don't have the basis and you don't have that democratic, you know, I mean, if you don't have a republic, it's hard. And no system of electing government will stick or be fair.
Now, it sounds like an insurmountable task to put a strong leader in that's going to get shit together. So, I mean, imagine if the most corrupt, crime-ridden country in the world was able to do that in a short period of time. That's something you might want to look at. So let's listen to what Bukele says here, and why other countries might not be trying to apply the same thing exactly what he applied, since it was so effective.
Really makes me laugh. Do you think that that's one of the reasons that your successes, which are just measurable, I'm not saying this for ideological reasons, but just a fact that you've transformed the country in a good way, and that you're literally the most popular elected leader in the world, again, not speculation, provable fact, you'd think that would be greeted in the hemisphere as this amazing thing, like what's going on in El Salvador, and instead, there's been this, what's going on in El Salvador?
Yeah.
There's been hostility.
Yes.
Do you think that's why?
I'm not sure, but one of the reasons is that we don't pander to them. So probably they don't like that. It's probably a reason. It's like this. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theory. I'm going to go into provable facts, right? Like you said. So there's worldwide agendas, right? These are provable facts, right? They have benchmarks that they need the countries to follow and they need the countries to do. This is, out there, right? But sometimes if you work on those things, you're probably neglecting the important things for your people, the things that your people are really asking for. Give you an example. When we arrested the gang members that were killing so much people that we were the murder capital of the world, literally the most dangerous place in the whole world, more dangerous than Haiti, right? More dangerous than Iraq. This was literally the most dangerous country in the world. We have triple the amount of the murder rate that Haiti has right now. With all the mayhem that they have, we have triple that here. So what do we have to? What do you have to do? You have to stop that, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you don't even need to have a big thought process. You have to stop that. That's the first thing you have to do. When we did that, we got huge condemnations. You name it. Say an organization, we got a condemnation from them. So, and a lot of them were human rights organizations. And you would ask, what about the human right of a woman not to be raped? I mean, what about the human right of kids to play or to be free or to go to the park? And what about the human right to live, or the human right to walk in the street, right? But no, they were worried about the human rights of the killers. That's good. Which they have human rights. I don't say they don't. They do.
So so right there we have the most dangerous country in the world, the most deaths or murders per day in the world. This strong leader comes in, turns into one of the safest places in the world, and somehow condemned by human rights organizations, and covered negatively by the international media. So I think that highlights pretty clearly that there's seems to be something weird about the concept of making third world countries a safer place. I mean, so just for fun, this is a map of the least to most violent places in the world. The darker the blue.
Just for fun, the most violent countries in the world. Here you go.
Just for fun.
Yeah,
So the darker the bluer, the more violent the country is.
So you could see Africa and South America.
Chicago should just be blue.
I know. It should be a different color.
Capital of the U.S., right? Chicago.
So Chile's safer than the United States?
Apparently.
Oh, wow.
From a crime standpoint, yeah.
That's because you're here.
Yeah.
You left there.
It's because of 3 cities.
How many people live in Chile? Like 10 people?
What's that above Australia? Is that Papua New Guinea?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
okay. Yeah, they're pretty wild over there still.
But look how dark blue South Africa is.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Exactly. In Venezuela.
Yeah, that's because there's like mass murders of white farmers by Africans.
Is that part of the apartheid?
Yeah. Well, they're reversing apartheid right now.
Okay.
So it's basically like retribution just endlessly until there's no more white people left.
It sounds like a genocide.
Well, and from what I've heard, they're going into farmers' homes and slaughtering the entire family in front of the farmer and then killing them later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like a movie.
Yes.
But it's real life.
And then in Zimbabwe there was this case where they ordered all the white farmers to leave the country and get out of here, and then like 5 years later there's another headline where he's like, wait, actually please come back, we don't know how to run these farms.
I grew up with those people. I literally grew up with
the killers.
No, with South Africans that had to leave South Africa. Like probably, I don't know, 10, 15 guys in my class, they went through that.
Yeah.
And I'm part of that type of people. People from European descent that went to South Africa, went to Chile, went to Brazil, went to whatever. And this decolonization processes, because we're not wanted in our home countries. Like, because they're going through retributions, they're going through laws that whatever, So you're not wanted there. You're not wanted there at all, and you're also not wanted back in Europe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And thank God for the USA that we have a place where you if you're a decent enough human being, you abide by the law. Until this day, you can actually, succeed.
Yeah.
And listen to what I'm going to say, because Chile has been under the boot of human rights since 1973. Okay, let me paint you a picture. 1973, communist government takes over Chile. We had the same GDP as Haiti. That's how they broke the whole system. And then Augusto Pinochet came in, got rid of all the communists, and took the country from Haiti's GDP to the one of South Korea. Okay,
Wow.
that's the change that he made. And till this day, they're prosecuting people in their 90s. They prosecuted a guy that was 97 and put him in jail. Human rights, and it's gonna sound spicy. Human rights is the second biggest hoax of the left.
Yeah.
Like when you hear human rights,
What's the first?
was it first? Climate change.
All right, anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, because it's the biggest hoax. Because they only care about the rights of criminals. They care the rights about political radicals. They care the rights of terrorists. They only care the rights of their own people.
They're useful idiots.
They're useful idiot, and they do it. And they still. It's been 50 years since the whole thing happened in Chile, that it was bound to happen, and they're still making movies about it. They're still complaining about it, and that's what's happening to Nayib Bukele. Like the human rights violations that go on Venezuela right now. There's a really good movie if you want to watch it. It's brand new on Netflix. We watch it together.
Yep.
It's called Simon. Go watch it, and so you understand the level of human rights violations that are happening right now. You can take a plane and be there in 4 hours in Venezuela. Go look at the human rights violations that are happening in China. Go look at the human rights violations that are
Notice
happening
how no one ever brings those up, at least not in like New York Times, but they always go after Russia. Russia's like the one place where they have human rights violations and everyone has to hate them. But then like 90% of the world is violating human rights on a daily basis.
I don't know
and they
if
never
this
say
was
anything
last
about it.
year or the year before. This is a joke, Shane. This is a joke. You see the Human Rights Council at the UN is Saudi Arabia, China,
It's a literal sham.
Nigeria. It's a literal sham. Russia was
Well,
in
the
the
fact
council.
that Bukele's not being celebrated, and people ask him, "What's your secret? What'd you do?" People should be studying him. Like he turned it from worst to first, from safest. Like why? The fact that he's being covered negatively tells you everything you need to know.
This is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
This is a no-brainer.
like they want violence and chaos, I guess.
There's also this clip in that Tucker interview where Tucker's like, this isn't a well-known fact, but MS-13 is actively
Satanists,
satanic.
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, they're practicing Satanists.
Oh, wow.
And that blew my mind. I was like, I had no idea
Yeah.
about that. There's like a whole esoteric part of it where not only are they murdering women, children, and, taking over governments and stuff, but they literally worship the devil. Like, can you make this shit up?
And like he said, one of the guys told him that like the beast asked him to sacrifice a child or something. So like, what are they like hearing possessed voices and shit too?
Well, probably because they're snorting coke. all
Yeah,
day,
yeah. I guess that'll do that to you.
20 years straight.
That'll do it.
Well, we have to move on to our final topic. And speaking of human rights violations, let's talk about someone who was a victim of a human rights violation, and that is Brittney Griner, who was imprisoned in Russia in a man's prison, which I had no idea about, and I think that leads us into our next story. Amy, take us away.
Yeah, so I would never have thought that I would be on here talking about a sports story, okay? Anybody at Valuetainment who knows me knows that I am very much not adept when it comes to the world of sports. But we do have a very interesting intersection right now with Pride Month going on. And so I thought I would bring this story to you guys. There has been widespread speculation for a while now, but it's really kind of come to a head on Twitter over the last couple of days that Brittney Griner, the WNBA's Brittney Griner, is in fact a man. And where a lot of this actually surfaced from, and I mean, you guys could probably say like, yo, isn't it obvious? Like her voice, there's a lot of things that you can kind of look towards. However, this video actually resurfaced. It's an Instagram story from, I believe it says 109 weeks ago. I can't see from here, but over 2 years ago, that this video was recorded and it was recently leaked on Twitter. So Kelly, if we can go ahead and play this video, please, and then we'll have a discussion.
By you, Brittney. Let me see something real quick. Brick! Thank you! Get the fuck!
Damn.
Look at the chest.
Yo! Jab stepping. It's a brick. Swing and a miss.
Very clearly Brittney.
I ain't gonna fake it right now.
They called him/her by their name. And as you can clearly see here, his bare chest is completely exposed. Now, there's a couple of different things here. First things first is like there's a lot of AI detections in these things. Like you can't post anything like that on social media without it being detected. And so, I mean, whatever AI detection, glanced over this thing, did not flag it. Like they clearly was like, okay, this is just a man with their chest exposed. Okay, number two, you could possibly speculate, okay, is Brittney trans then? What's the situation here? But as we can see, this is the picture, right, Kelly? There aren't any top surgery scars. Like
that's what I was wondering. Maybe she had like some type of double mastectomy. Sometimes you hear that breast cancer will run in a family, so girls will have a preemptive mastectomy to remove their breast. But I don't see any surgery scars. Now, it's not a very clear image, but I would think that you'd be able to see something, and that just looks like the chest of a 13-year-old boy. I know that because I have a 14-year-old boy at home.
Yeah. I mean, and there's great surgeons out there, okay? So even still, maybe we could be a little bit skeptical. But then I also saw this tweet. So I wonder if we can punch in on it a little bit. Or, Brandon, can you read it since you're a little bit closer?
Brittney Griner is a weird case. He's a man, yes, that much is obvious, but not the way you think. He isn't trans. He's straight.
A straight
cis
male. Sorry, it's not a typical word. Sorry.
Yeah, made up words. It's okay.
He's a straight cis man who was raised as a girl and given a girl's name by his parents. His mother is the insane one. She forced him to live as a female right through high school. Filled out all his paperwork, including BC as a female, kept the charade going. He played on a girls' sports teams because his paper said that he was a girl. He had to keep pretending in college to stay on the women's teams. He had to keep just barely pretending to stay in the WNBA now. But all other ways he lives life as a man. He wears men's clothes, dates, and is married to women. Has masculine features and takes masculine roles. If not for his mother's insanity, he would be a mediocre male player in the NBA.
That's pretty good. I'd take mediocre in the NBA.
In a way, I feel sorry for him because all his success depends on him maintaining the lie that he lived for his whole life. Of course, Russia gives zero shits and will treat him like the male that he is. Maybe it'll be a refreshing change for him.
Yeah, so this clearly references Brittney Griner going to Russian prison, and a male Russian prison at that. But what's really interesting about this, Kelly, we can flick over to the articles here, and we're not going to really hone in on any of these. I just have a couple of headlines, guys, because I wanted to show you that this is really the most information I could find about Brittney Griner being in a male prison, especially when it came to publications from different sports entities. There was nothing mentioned about Brittney being in a male prison. I wonder why. Are they trying to withhold this information for any particular reason? I mean, that's what I would assume, right? But you can really only find evidence of it in passing. It's literally just mentioned in passing in a bunch of articles, but no one really hones in on it. Now, if this was actually a woman who was put in a male Russian prison, one would think that there would be entire articles dedicated to this, an entire Netflix series, honestly, in today's social justice world, right?
Yeah.
But from my perspective, exactly like the tweet said, Russia isn't going to put up with this shit. If they saw that this is a man, then yeah, they're going to put you in a man's prison. And it's pretty evident why it would be suppressed here, especially when it comes to the WNBA. But yeah, what do you guys think about this?
To give it 100, there's two. I mean, she's either a winner or she's either a victim. She's not at fault here at all.
You said she, though.
Brainwashed.
You said she. So you think it's a she.
Well, I don't.
Okay, I should have said it. Sorry. You think Brittney is a she?
I don't know what the right pronoun the regime wants me to use now, but when I hear Brittney, I use she. And but anyhow, he, or she, or they, them. I don't know. They either were incredibly successful at doing the transition from female to male, and by society standards, and that's what the left doesn't get. You know, it's the how do you call it, Shane? Compulsory language.
Yeah, compulsory language.
Compulsory language. If I see Brittney in at 7-Eleven, I will call him a he. And if he trans, and my first reaction will be to call him a him. Good for her. She's not committing any crime. She's over 18. She's doing, him or she or whatever is doing her thing. So good for her. Winner. Now she's a victim. If the mother made her go, like, since she was little, and it's a horrible thing. If the mother was crazy and made her go through it, she's a victim. You know. But I don't think I don't see it. She's not hurting anyone, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with this. What I do think is wrong is what the U.S. government did to trade like one of the most dangerous criminals, like international criminals,
a merchant of death,
for her, and leaving actual troops there that are important for national security there. I wish every American was taken care of and brought back here, whatever the crime they did, because But I don't see anything wrong about it.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't give a fuck about women's sports, and I think that most people probably don't care about women's sports, except the women who have been training their whole life to make it on a women's sports team. And in both the instances that you just described, like if this is a successful transition and Brittney is on cross-sex hormones, that means that Brittney has more testosterone, artificially induced testosterone in their system than their female counterparts who they're playing with on the team.
Right,
so it's unequal, it's unbalanced.
There is fault there.
And also, if he is a male, then it's messed up from both perspectives.
Yeah, the only way that she's totally innocent is if she's actually a girl and has always been a girl, and it's just a rumor from Russia.
Yeah.
Well, so according to Wikipedia, whether you trust that or not, on November 17th, Griner's lawyers said that she was transferred to IK2, a female penal colony in the town of Yavas in the region of Mordovia. She was previously held at an undisclosed location. But when you check out the IK2, it does say that it's a corrective colony number 2 of the FSIN of Russia for the Republic of Mordovia. It is a women's corrective colony in Russia. So
2017, you said?
2017.
This was in like 2022, though, when...
November 17th. I didn't give the year. I don't know what year that was. 2022.
Okay.
So that's according to her attorneys back in November of 2 years ago. But who knows what undisclosed location she was held at? So
yeah, and again, it's only mentioned in passing in these articles. Like
it was. I had to dig. I mean, I had to go to her Wikipedia to find where she was actually in prison because every article would just say a Russian prison.
Exactly, and that's why those few screenshots that I brought up, I highlighted them when they specifically mentioned Brittney being held in a men's prison. But again, if that was unfounded, if that was unfair, if it was actually a human rights violation because that is a woman, we would have heard way more about this, a lot more.
Does it matter to you guys if, like, Obama came out and he's like, yeah, she's Mike, she had a penis, but we had it removed. I love her, and she's a woman in my eyes. Or Macron comes out and goes, yeah, it was Brad, not Brigitte. Would that change your opinion of either of them?
Yeah, I mean, because they lied.
Yeah.
Like, so you care about but what if the lie was to protect someone that they loved? What if it was, I love this person, and I don't want... dildo podcaster saying she was born a man, and here we are nonetheless. They did it to protect the loved ones, not to necessarily harm the public, but to protect the people they love.
Doesn't the WNBA have an onus of responsibility to be able to ensure that it's fair playership, though? I don't know if playership's a word, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, for college sports and for the WNBA too, 100%. I mean, I don't think it's ever okay for guys to be playing girl sports, but if this is true, then she was like the origin of this epidemic, and maybe it was like all planned, I guess, sensitized to some huge bitch playing with other.
But will we see the day where we see a woman in the NBA or a man in the WNBA claiming to be a woman?
The man in the WNBA,
Unless
yes.
Brittney Griner, but go ahead.
Man in the WNBA, yes, because things are that crazy right now, and maybe it would help it get more views since it gets no views right now. Maybe people would be outrage viewing.
Well,
but
it's getting views now because of Caitlin Clark, but how long is that going to last? Is there going to be another Caitlin Clark next year during the WNBA
Probably
draft
not.
when people give a shit? Nobody cared about WNBA. Okay. The majority of Americans did not care about
99.9%.
Yes, for the past 20 years that it's been in existence. Now all of a sudden there's this superstar phenom. So it's like nobody really paid attention to the NBA after Michael Jordan left until LeBron James came.
Yeah, and then
right there was
woke.
a superstar that reinvented the sport and people started following it. So like people are paying attention to Caitlin Clark now. I think if there was a man that identified as a woman, do you ever see Joanna Man? It's okay. Nobody ever saw this movie. It's a movie from like the 90s where I think his name's Orlando Bloom. He pretends to be a woman so he can play in the WNBA and dominate the sport. He gets banned from the
But
NBA.
you can make more being a plumber.
What's that? You can make more.
It's true.
Yeah, well,
very,
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
This movie clearly you suspended disbelief, but yeah, it was actually entertaining to watch a man play against other women. I'd be more interested in watching a man identifying as a woman playing in the WNBA than seeing a woman
Pretending to be a man.
Yeah, and
it's
getting
impossible.
dominated.
It's impossible.
In the NBA.
And you don't see it as well, which I think it says a lot when we're talking about transgenders. It says a lot about the intentions of certain people. Like, no woman is wanting to transition into a man and then impose themselves upon men's spaces like that. But for men transitioning to women, that seems to be all they want to do. It's all that we hear about.
Is it wrong
you know?
to want different sports leagues for transgendered people? Like, I think
they should have their own.
Super interesting, yeah. Like a super interesting boxing match would be a man transitioning to a woman, boxing a woman transitioning into a man. It'd be I would definitely bet on that.
Sounds like Roman blood sports. Like,
okay, I'm the weird one. I'd rather it's that than be in female sports and dominating the competition.
You're right, Rob. And
100%.
honestly, that's not even like a transphobic thing to say, because when you actually ask trans people, a lot of legitimate trans people, like Blair White, I actually really enjoy a lot of Blair White's perspectives. You know, they say, you know, hey, I think trans should be its own category.
I think, I mean, this sports is the most optional thing. It's the most optional thing. Like, nobody's gonna make you watch it. Nobody's gonna make you play in it. I think, I mean, and the NBA is a private league, so is the NFL, so is the WNBA. They're all private entities that are franchised, and they're in the right, because this is America, to keep any kind of fiction that they want to keep up for entertainment purposes. My view is different when it comes to college sports, because that's taxpayer funded, and that can change the life of a woman that has been training hard. And maybe she doesn't have enough money, so she needs to play, run or do track or do volleyball, and able to pay for her education. Some people go to the military to pay for their education. Some people play sports to pay for their education. So they're two different ball games. I think private companies, they can keep any fiction that they want to keep. The market will talk. And the market has been talking the last 28 years. Nobody watches it. It had a spike now for a little bit. And as funny as you say that we might have a trans league of whatever, boxing, UFC or whatever, if the market desires to have that happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
And people will come into it. I just don't think when it comes to like taxpayer funded leagues, I think competition needs to be fair, as the same thing as getting a government contract, the same thing as getting a scholarship, an internship, like a tenure. There needs to be, a balanced, fair ground. But for private entities, they can do whatever they like, and the market will speak. That's it.
We have to wrap up, so I want to go around and ask everybody a quick two questions quickly. The first question: is there any sport that a woman could compete in a men's league? If so, what is that sport? And the second question: is Brittney Griner a man? We'll start with you, Shane.
I would say they can compete probably in running, like most Olympic.
I said sport.
Okay.
Like NFL, NHL.
So it needs to be a team thing.
Yes, like a
team
one of the
sport.
4 major sports: baseball, basketball, football.
So archery
and
doesn't
hockey.
count.
Is there any what?
Archery doesn't count.
No. I'm not looking for like
maybe baseball,
the discus.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Curling. What's that?
Yeah.
Curling.
So
maybe baseball, I guess. I mean, still probably not with hitting, but with pitching.
Okay, Brittney Griner, man or no?
Probably, man, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
I'm
Brandon.
sold.
Nagging.
Nagging? That's not a sport. But my wife would win the gold medal in that. Go ahead.
No, none of the big four.
None of the big four?
No way in hell.
And is Brittney Griner a man or a woman?
I've always had a feeling that yes.
Yes,
I've
what?
never heard this before with this evidence, but I've always had a feeling that it wasn't she.
Born a dude?
He was a man, yeah.
Biologically a male, but now identifies as a female. Humberto,
Yes.
can a woman compete in any of the four major sports?
I don't know how major it is, but it's big worldwide. The Formula One, all right, it's been the most inclusive sport since I think it was 1918 that they allowed women to drive. Like it's a big event, you know. It's a worldwide. They sell out all the tickets everywhere. They sell out pay-per-views.
So you're suggesting women as drivers?
No,
women like is there a stereotype of women
listen,
being
listen,
worse
listen.
drivers than men?
They can fact check me in the chat. They've been allowed since 1918. So
How many are in there?
Huh?
How many are in there right now?
There's been 8 of them that competed
In
professionally.
120 years?
And yes, in the 120 years, there've been 8 of them to compete professionally, and all the points, all of them scored, like throughout the whole career that they had. It wouldn't even put them in, because you know it's by points that they arrange the cars. It wouldn't even put them in second to last place.
So no. Your answer is no. There's no sport.
The thing is, and to be fair, society, you know, like for example, if you if you liked baseball, okay, they allow you to not engage in other things, and you can be 100% baseball. Yeah, you know that kid that does baseball, he goes to practice 3 times a day, and he talks baseball, wears baseball, does everything for baseball, and baseball is his life. Like as a boy growing up, you get to do that. You get to have one thing that you're obsessed with, and you become incredibly good at it. It be dinosaurs, be sports, be whatever. Women, they're forced to be more well-rounded. They still need to look decent. They still need to do decently well at school, blah, 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 this and that. So the level of obsession that you need to get to like a high-performance sports, I don't think it's possible. It's never been done.
Brittney Griner, man or woman?
I can't tell.
You can't tell.
Well, let's end the segment with the person who brought the topic to the table. Amy, do you think a woman, as the only woman on the panel, unless Shane or Brandon, you guys want to speak up and say something now?
No.
No. Okay.
Women,
So the only woman on the panel. Do you think a woman could compete in a man's sport? And is Brittney Griner a man or woman?
No, women are like physiologically inferior to men in nearly every single way, from like lung capacity, like density of bones, like size, strength, speed, everything. So to answer your question, no, absolutely not. And is Brittney Griner a man? I mean, based off everything that we've seen here, my inkling, like you said, would have been yes, but now seeing this evidence and the thing above even the flat chest with no like mastectomy scars or anything like that, what really gets me is the fact that yes, Brittney was held in a man's Russian prison. You can see it, but there's no widespread outrage or article or anything about that. To me, that is the most suspicious part about all of this.
Well, majority rules. Brittney Griner, man, according to these guys.
Heard it here first.
Yes,
Unusual
you
suspects.
heard it here first. So with that, we will wrap up. Thank you to all of the panelists for today's show. Humberto, Brandon, Shane, and Amy. Everybody here is on Manect. A big shout out to the crew behind the scenes making everything go, including Jeremy. Hit that like and subscribe button right now, Jeremy. Boom, look at that. Jeremy on the computer, or I'm sorry, on the video. We have Kelly running the entire production. We have Jacob on the sound. And for you guys watching at home, thank you for joining us today. Make sure if you have not done so already, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we will be back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. right here on the Unusual Suspects channel. Until then, have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.